All right. Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to the Mystic Shaman Chronicles with Sherry Mosley. I am Sherry Mosley, and we are starting this new series or show or podcast. It will be on YouTube as well as Spotify, as a YouTube or as a podcast, as well as on the iTunes podcast. And we are going to be talking about all of the questions that I get sent, as well as the many personal accounts and experience that I have working as a shamanic practitioner who does Asian medicine. So we'll be talking about the mystical side of things, connecting to higher divine knowledge, spiritual awakening, and the shamanic side of things of connecting to the spiritual realm for divine guidance and divination and healing in the energetic healing as well as plant medicine healing. So welcome everybody. I know this is going to be a little exciting. So for our first topic of the show, I thought I'd kind of go over, a lot of people talk to me about being psychic or a medium and what is that like and how did that really happen for me. So I thought that that would be kind of a good place to start, right? Is a little bit more of my personal story with this journey. So let's kind of define those things to begin with, right? So to be psychic is more or less you're using your higher intuitive senses or your higher abilities to connect with information, right? And that can come in a lot of different ways. You can hear things, clairaudience, clairvoyant, you can see things, clairsentient, you can touch or feel things. And then there's just kind of I don't know what the clair is, but just a knowing, a solid knowing, right? And so being psychic just allows those things to, it just suddenly comes to you, right? You're already connected to the universal consciousness in one way or another. And the information is coming in, right? And so then a medium is one then who is using that psychic ability, connecting to that knowledge, but in a way that it's more of like a channel coming in, right? And some people directly channel or medium for, one voice of knowledge to come through, right? And this may be passed on loved ones, passed on souls. It's a very common form of mediumship. The other is maybe a channel for, you become a channel of an ascended master or an angelic being, right? That's also very common. And the other one is you can become a medium, and let's say you're just channeling in higher knowledge. Okay, this is more when it's written, right? So this may be books, right, that come in. Sometimes this is referred to as maybe downloads, receiving downloads. That's a type of a mediumship, right? You're becoming a spirit that is connecting to the spiritual realm. You're in the middle, right? Here's the material world, here's the spiritual world, and you're in the middle. You're kind of what I call the sieve or the filter through which everything is coming through, right? And as a medium, you want to make sure that your filter is clear or clean, right? You want to get as much of your egoic self out of the way. What this means is that you're letting go of your personal identity, the earth identity that allows you to be incarnated here to more clearly and cleanly receive what is coming through, so that the interpretation is more pure to its higher frequency knowledge or information that's coming through, whether it's from a passed on soul. Some people change their voice or their mannerisms or this syncopation of how they're speaking when they are becoming a medium or going through mediumship and channeling, right? And so all of those things can shift when you kind of enter into the essence or the frequency or the consciousness of another being, right? Another being or another frequency of being, right? Which means you're switching to another frequency of source, right? Source is everything, right? Source is the passed on loved one. Source is the angelic being. Source is the spirit teacher, your power animal, whatever is coming through and connecting to your guardian angel, right? All of these things. So me as a medium, I have over time through mostly my shamanic journey practice of connecting to the spirit world, right? So that's listening to either shamanic drumming or rattling. These things put you into a meditative brainwave state through a repeated sound at a certain rate, puts you traditionally into a theta brainwave state, which is a deep state of meditation, right? And so then you go through that meditative brainwave state to the spiritual realm. And there you connect most traditionally to the upper or lower world, right? Lower world is usually more the subconscious. Upper world is usually the higher knowledge, higher consciousness, higher self, right? Middle world is the world that we're already in, which you can see through the veil, connect through the veil of the middle world, but it's not seen as traditionally as benevolent, right? Our world has those with their own egoic agendas. If you go to the lower upper world, it's agenda free, right? So there's no interruption or interpretation through those dimensional spaces, right? There is a clearness. So when we connect to the upper realm, which is traditionally what I connect to my spiritual teacher, right? Spiritual teacher then brings me knowledge, guidance, assignments, helps me do healing work with others. I can also receive higher knowledge of maybe plant-based medicines. In this case, I work with Chinese herbal medicine to give to a client. So then the other beings could be like the Aqualorians who I connect to, right? This is a mediumship. I'm connecting with an extraterrestrial off of Earth life form being. I also connect to many of the Galactic Federation beings. This could be the Pleiadians, Arcturians, Orions, Syrians, also connected to the Andromedans and Lyra. And then we could get into the angelics. I traditionally connect to Archangel Metatron. I've also connected to Archangel Michael, and then also the guardian angelics, who are referred to as the Watchers. I've also connected to the Elohim. Those are the most popular angelics that I have connected to. Sometimes the seraphim will come in, and sometimes the thrones angelics. And these are all on the spectrum of the angelic hierarchy, which in theosophy is a almost like a ladder of consciousness, and the angelics go in between those. But the greater angelics, like the Watchers or the guardian angelics, Metatron and Michael, are considered of a same light body frequency as ascended Master Jesus or the other ascended masters like Buddha or Babaji. Those are others that I tend to connect with, but they are all templates of higher consciousness frequency in our earth plane. So just as passed on souls will leave a consciousness print in our earth plane that we can access, so do these other beings, right? But then connecting to the extraterrestrials, we are going off planet and beginning to connect that way. So that's a sample of all of the mediumship that I do. So these are all the beings that I connect to. So different forms of consciousness, different frequencies of consciousness, and different resonances with different higher knowledge messages or teaching. And what usually comes through depends on what the intention is, right? But for now, we're just talking about what is it like to be psychic, and then what is it like to be a medium. And I'll speak from experience of when I first was a psychic medium, I was naturally born as such. So this would be considered a blood lineage, meaning that my mother, my grandmother, great grandmother, they were all psychic. They had that ability already. So it's passed down, which means it's a bit of a rude awakening when it starts to turn on or mature, right? So when I was younger, it was more of getting premonitions. I get premonitions about things that will be maybe dangerous or life-threatening. Okay, that is like the biggest form of a message that is unsolicited, meaning it just comes in. So before accidents, I will receive a vision, a clairvoyant image, like a movie. And it happened to me once also back in 2019, I believe. Yeah, beginning of 2019, when I was in a taxi and I just saw this image of almost getting in an accident. And I should have told the driver because then when it happened, he almost, I think, rear-ended somebody or something like that. If I had told them ahead of time, I don't know that he would have believed me, right? It's harder to deliver these things to people that you've just met, right? Or I could have said, oh, maybe watch your driving, be a little careful. I have a feeling about something, and I know their culture tends to be more open, I think, to such encounters, but I didn't say anything. But anyway, it did almost happen. And he was very shocked, but I wasn't because I had already seen it and I was kind of more in a wow state. I'm like, oh, that was real. But that happened to me as a child. And as a child, it was very confusing because to me, it felt like having a dream while I'm awake. So it was a little disorienting, right? Because I didn't have enough experience yet on the earth plane as a human to to really differentiate, right? And so that's an example of more like a psychic premonition, but that was what it was like before I attuned myself and focused myself to, okay, what is the connection we're trying to make here with my higher psychic abilities, right? And so the I'm trying to think here, the over time, it just kind of developed more. And eventually it was passed on souls that I was interfacing. And I've had a few of those incidences occur, and maybe I'll save that for a next chapter of all of those stories. But those can be more scary, and they were to me when I was younger. And I would try to shut all of this down because it felt like it was something happening to me. It wasn't really helpful. It was somebody else's agenda being brought to me unsolicited. So it felt a little bit like, a person walking up to you on the street and just asking you for help or telling you their problems or acting out in a certain way, but they're in the spiritual realm. So I felt a little threatened that they were in that spiritual realm, and I thought that I couldn't tell it to stop or go away, but you actually can, right? Just as you can with the physical human. And this then, helps to break the connection. And, I used to love watching this show Medium. And that is a really good representation of what it's like to be a psychic medium. And it's based on a very well known psychic, Alison Dubois. And the show is a really good example of what it's like connecting with passed on souls, right? So again, that's usually kind of where it starts. And then through my shamanic work, I helped to control, or I wouldn't necessarily say control, attune my psychic abilities to connect in a certain way, opening to higher divine channels. And this is why you do shamanic work, to connect to your spirit teachers. And then they are the ones that assist you through the spiritual realm of who you're going to connect to with your psychic and or mediumship ability on the other side in the spiritual world, right? And so it's much more calming or helpful, right? Then you can use your abilities in a way that feels helpful. And so now I host all of these events, channeling in all of these different frequencies and beings. People often ask me, how do you do that? What are you doing? Right? And so over time, right, I started off with doing a lot of shamanic journeys, connecting to my spirit teacher, who then introduced me to other beings. And your spirit teacher always is the one who's in charge of connecting you to these other beings. And this is just a frequency of consciousness that resonates with you, that is teaching you how to connect to these other forms of consciousness. So it is your spiritual teacher, right? So it's just a really helpful practice to get you comfortable with the spiritual realm. And now, as I did all the shamanic journey work, it eventually turned into Akashic Enlightenment, because my spirit teacher then gave me the Akashic Enlightenment Gateway Prayer. Actually, it was them, my spirit teacher, as well as the Arcturians, actually. And they gave me this gateway prayer to go into this higher dimensional space, which is more or less what a shamanic journey does. So as you say this Akashic Enlightenment prayer, it opens up the higher dimensional frequency of consciousness that lets you then connect, in this case, to your highest divine self, your highest consciousness, your light being self. That is your truest being connected to source. It also opens up your Akashic records, right? And so when you're in that field, then you can ask for more knowledge and connection. And I use that field to open up a greater space, a dimensional consciousness space, to bring all of your consciousnesses in to then connect to these higher realms. And I act as the in-between, the coordinator, which is more or less what a shaman is. They stand between the material world and the spirit world. And that's more or less what being a psychic medium is for me, and how I connect to all of these higher beings, all of this higher knowledge, how I do all of my events, as well as how I do the readings, how I can see all the information that comes in for your readings. And it does take a lot of practice, right? Which I got through all of my shamanic training, acupuncture school training, and some Akashic work, but a lot of practice in shamanic journey. And now I offer the teaching to you, right? I teach everybody Akashic Enlightenment now. So if you want to learn how to hone in your psychic abilities, or become more in touch with your higher self, then Akashic Enlightenment would be a wonderful tool for you to learn to use. And if you go all the way up to level 10, you can learn to be your own Akashic Enlightenment teacher or reader, to do your own events and teachings and readings for other people. Or if you're on a personal journey, it just helps you to understand yourself more, right? Which is also what shamanism is helpful for. And if you have abilities, psychic or mediumship ability, it really, really helps you to feel like you are working with it instead of it working you or using you. Wonderful. All right. I think that kind of completes our journey for today. Mhm. So if you have any questions or comments, please leave that in the chat below. If you would like to submit any questions for next week's show, please place your questions in the comments or email a short email entitled with the title of the show, which is The Mystic Shaman, and send in your question for me to answer on the show. All right. I hope that you enjoyed our first episode here. And if you would like to immerse more in the energies, then I suggest checking out the lunar and astrology videos where I channel in through the Temple of Light all of the higher frequencies and dimensional beings for that lunar cycle at that moment. Yeah. All right. So, and of course, if you'd like a personal reading, you can sign up for the Shamanic Akashic sessions or one of the Aqualorian Crystalline Light Healing sessions. And if you'd like Asian medicine, we can do the Asian medicine session as well. So, sending you all so much love and light. I hope you enjoyed our first episode here. And I look forward to your questions and your comments. And thank you for connecting. Bye for now.